I'll be presenting on behalf of my co-authors, which are NMAZ and CMAZ, both of the University of Nigeria and Nsukka. So the title of the research I'm going to present is on the modeling of the effect of COVID-19 outbreak on the welfare of Nigerian citizens. And I'm going to use a neural network approach. The abstracts, because of the nature of my slide, I'm going to summarize each of the slides so that I'll be able to beat time. So the abstract here is trying to tell us the potentiality of an artificial neural network model as a classifier. Because here we'll be able to use a model evaluation criteria called a mean correct classification rate to assess the model which we just programmed, and we're able to ascertain that there is a 98.05% accuracy of such a model. Then under the introduction, we're able to officially briefly introduce Nigeria being the highest population in Africa with a certain total surface area and density of about 212.04 individual per square kilometers. And also, we know Nigeria has a major sectors of occupation as agriculture, services, and industry. And because you all are aware of the incidence of a viral pandemic disease that occurred at the early quarter of this year, 2020, to be specific, on 27th of February, 2020, an Italian citizen that works in Nigeria came in with that virus in Nigeria. And after which the disease kept on spreading to the point that there was a lockdown. The government mandated that everybody should stay at home. There were no movements. People were not allowed to embark on their day-to-day activities. And this has an impact or effect on the economy, on the welfare of the citizens. So we're able to introduce COVID-19 here, which all know are aware of the disease that comes in with a symptom such as pneumonia, fever, difficult to breathe, and others. And we're able to look at the preventive measures and the ways which people contact it. So people contact it through coming in contact with an infected person or staying around a person that is infected when he sneezes or coughs, or touching a suffix which is being infected with such diseases. And also I've realized that there are some preventive measures which are covering our faces, our nose, especially with a nose mask, or avoid coming in contact with an infected person, and also observing a social distancing, and more especially washing our hand constantly with an alcohol-based hand sanitizer with a running water. So the aim of this research is categorically to just to show the potentiality of artificial neural network to show the potentiality of artificial neural network in classifying and prediction of data. And the objective are now to evaluate the accuracy of artificial neural network model as a classifier. The other ones are to report the order of predictors' significance to the model or the architecture. And finally, to identify those socio-economic factors that affected the welfare of Nigerian citizens in the context of this study. The literatures that people have worked actually on this area, starting in this 2020, have many current literatures which can be shown in the screen. Because of time, I want to go down to the main thing so that time will not be against me. So under data collection, so we collected the data through a primary source. A primary source. We collected the data through a primary source, that is questionnaire, and we made use of a total number of 480 questionnaire, that is data points. And we made it in such a way that we were able to capture the 6 geopolitical zones in Nigeria. So that is north central, northeast, northwest, southeast, south, and southwest. And we used a simple random sampling technique to sample 4 states out of each of those geopolitical zones, and we're able to sample those states as can be seen in the screen. That is on north central. We're able to sample Benue State, Kogi State, Niger State, and Abuja, and the rest of them. And what we did is that we were able to capture 20 persons in each of the states. Because there were lockdown and people were not allowed to move, we resort to the use of a social media platform. We were able to send mails and Facebook message, WhatsApp message, sending those questionnaires to our friends in our social media platform. We were able to attend to such questionnaires and mail back to us. We were able to collect such questionnaire and harmonize them into a code which can be analyzed in the context of neural network computing. And here, we were able to observe our response variable, which is our Y.
Mr. Sogwa, you have just a minute to round up. Please go to your major findings and conclusions. You have just a minute to round up.
All right, sir. We used a model proposed by ADAX 1998 to model that, and our result is this. So in the result, we have this table which actually explains what we did. This table, there were 25 out of 26 people that were correctly classified, saying that there is a positive impact of COVID-19 affected the economy positively. Also, we have 124 out of 125 that say that COVID-19 affected the economy or the of citizens negatively. And we have 2 out of 3 that say that COVID-19 did not.
I need to watch a session. One session.
Have any effect on the economy. Then the mean model evaluation criteria was able to predict and to classify the model with a 98.05.
That's okay, sir.
It's as if you are having problem with your network. Mr. Sokwa, are you still with us?
Asogwa is no more here.
Asogwa.
Asogwa.
Mr. Sokwa. Okay, maybe when he comes by, we'll be able to ask him a few questions. But for now, I think it's out of the platform. So,
It's back.
okay, it's back now.
Please
unmute yourself, Mr. Sokwa. Mr. Sokwa, please unmute yourself. Okay. Can you hear us? Mr. Sokwa. Can you hear me? Hello, Mr. Sogwa. He's having network issue.
Okay.
Okay. Let's go to the
Hello.
next presenter. Hello, Mr. Sogwa. I think it's out again.
Out.
The next one. 58. Okay. Let's take presentation paper number 58, and that is going to be presented by Mr. Ahmad Abukadri Masido again.
Thank you very much.
He will be presenting on the role of ICT in riot control.
Exactly.
Again, you have 7 minutes for your presentation.
All
And your
right.
time starts now.
Thank you very much, sir. So
Thank you.
let me share the screen. Right. Thank you very much, sir.
Go to slideshow.
Please do a slideshow, please.
Yes. Hello, are you with me?
I'm with you, so you can go ahead. Go ahead.
The slide is showing, ba?
It's showing.
It's showing, right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Right. So on behalf of my co-authors, the title of the paper is The Role of ICT in Riot Control. So in the abstract, a bit description about the target of the paper and some of the challenges that arose just of recent, like this NSAS protests. So it's one of the example of riots, typically the recent protests, which leads to riots. So the research tried to look at how ICT can come in and provide a bit solution. So if we look at the definition of a riot, we can realize that is the peaceful demonstration which leads to violation of the law and order. So the research look at how developed countries and other developing countries apply information and communication technology to achieve monitoring or regulating the crime. In the introduction aspects, was able to define the riot, which obviously means the civil unrest, according to Martin's Luther 2020. So, which leads to the violence and other disorder. So, the riot control is nothing but preventing of such activity and make sure that such crowd was dispersed, or the perpetrators in the act were being able to arrest, as it was just happened at the end of the riot of the NSAS. We realized that the perpetrators, some of the ICT means was used to adopt some of the perpetrators. So if you look at it very well in the research, was able to look at how the riot control measures, what are the measures used in riot control. So one of the tactics is we have isolation of the crowd, selective or multiple arrests, dispersal of the crowd. So if the crowd is much, so you see the security agencies could not be able to at once disperse the crowd. So they may use some of the tactics of paralyze, or we call it defragment, fragment, isolation of the crowd. So some of the tactics involved using this ICT technology. We have plainclothes observers, some of the access denial system, where non-lethal weapons they have been used, just like some of the shocking rays, which is painful to the body of human being, is being utilized to the extent that it will allow people to disperse or to run away. At the same time, we have plainclothes observers. This one is just like intelligent department of the security, where security will disguise as if they are part of the protest, and they should be able to snap the perpetrators. So they were using ICT guard gauge like GSM phone to snap the perpetrators. The thugs or the actors, they may think as if they are part of them, not knowing that they are capturing the image for the sake of arrest. Apart from that one, we have camera surveillance. Technology, if it can be adopted, that of our Internet of Things, we realize that a drone can be mounted on top of the crowd, which is being equipped with the cameras, and it has holistic coverage of the entire protest. So from there, you see, after everything, that will be means at which such protest could be monitored and the perpetrators could easily be traced. Technology in policing. There is some of the technology, ICT technology adopted by police or security agencies. We have intelligent monitoring system. Most of the developed country, they goes by technology of global positioning system, whereby wherever the crowd or a group of people located, they can be easily be traced, and those acts will be manned, will be captured. So if you look at just what happened at Like in the just concluded NSAS protest, you realize that some of the Google satellites is being mounted to detect so much argument of using live ammunition or not. So you see, it is by the use of our global positioning system and satellite remote sensors, where such arguments, if you look at the documentary by CNN, you realize that such things has been able to sort out, where the sign of using live ammunition were able to be manifested. Then we have another technology of Internet of Things. Smart vehicle is equipped document which equipped vehicle which can go to the crowd and make some sound of like gun sounds and other tactics to scare the crowd in order to chase out the
Mr.
crowd.
Mashido, you have a minute to round up. You have just a minute to round up, please.
All right. So looking
Uh,
at the different strategy of controlling riot or riot control. So dispersal, some of the technology of drone could be used to equip with the less laser weapons, where it can radiate some of the painful rays to the protest coming from nowhere. They feel like as if they are retreated, which leads them to be running away. Smart vehicle also is part of it, which is equipped with the surveillance cameras. At the end of the day, maybe eventually after the protest, they will be able to trace. Then we have gone TASA in the form of arrest, where they are using less weapons which not aim to kill the protest, but to weaken them, which will allow security agencies to have means to arrest the perpetrators. So looking at this one now, we can realize that most of the developed countries, they made a use of ICT in order to control the riot. So in our conclusion, we also make a suggestion or recommendation that the security agencies needs to be equipped with ICT's guard gauge. Beside, we also recommend security agencies or governments entirely to look into ways to how to digitalize some of the security, or we call it security agencies operations, whereby whereby some of the ICT electronic will be adopted in carrying out community policing task. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mashido, for your presentation.
Thank you very
We
much.
sincerely appreciate you. At this point, let's take some questions. So if you have any question for Mr. Mashido, just signify by raising up your hand. If you have any question for him, just signify by raising up your hand. If you have any question for him, okay, Mr. Mashido.
Sir.
Hello.
Hello, I can hear you, sir.
Okay, you have mentioned some techniques of ICT that can be used to control crowd. In particular, you made reference to the Lekki NSAS protest.
Yes, sir.
Do you think what happened that day could have been recorded more appropriately than what was recorded using your own ICC technique? Because that day we were able to view the thing even as it was ongoing. Can you convince us that with your own ICC technique now, it would have been more covered than what we have presently? Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. You know, I in the uh, recommendation we suggested something that if at all it can happen, that we can go by very higher sensitive GPS system, it should have been better. If you look at what we have before, they made a use of some of the techniques to hide the cleared coverage by offing street light, and some of the surveillance camera at that gate. So had it been we have the global positioning system of like that of Google, we realize that such coverage, such cameras there, the darkness will not be a distorting issue to it. So the technology of global navigation satellite system is have been better than what we adopted that time. So this is why if you realize the report we have in Nigeria is a little bit not that standard and clear, more especially in the forensic investigation. You realize that we will not be able to identify such incident very well. But if you were able to look at that of CNN, where they made a use of that Google satellite, you realize that that documentary is more and more clarified than that of the one we released.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Mashido.
Thank you.
In the absence of any other question, let me appreciate you again for your presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir.
I think the next presenter is Dr. Wusu Ashiribo. Is Dr. Ashiribo here with us? Dr. Wusu?
Good afternoon. I am here.
Okay, Dr. Wusu.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Your paper number is number 60.
Yes,
and
sir.
you will be presenting on a dynamic
Epidemiology.
epidemiological model for the
Yes, sir.
analysis and control of coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic.
Yes,
You
sir.
have 7 minutes for your presentation.
Thank you.
Thereafter, we'll ask you questions for just 3 minutes. So
Yes, sir. Can I
7
share
minutes
my
for
screen, sir?
presentation. Please go ahead. Go ahead. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, sir. Uh, I want to quickly share my screen. Oh, God, shit. Let me share my screen. Permit me to quickly share my screen, please. Coming, trying to sort it out. When can anyone see? A few minutes, please. I'm trying to look for the file now. Show all windows. Okay, okay. I think I've seen it. Thank you. Few minutes. I just need to. I want to expand this. Can you see my screen? Is my screen
Yes, we
visible?
can see it. Go ahead, Doctor.
Is the screen
Yes, it's
visible?
bold. It's bold.
Oh, thank
It's
you.
visible.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Wusu Ashiribo Senapon of the Department of Mathematics, Lagos State University. I'm presenting a work titled A Dynamic Epidemiological Model for the Analysis and Control of Coronavirus Pandemic. A glance through the outline, we have the intro, the problem identification, the model formulation and assumptions, the model solution and interpretation, sensitivity analysis, summary and conclusion, then the references. Just a small background information into the coronavirus. It was first discovered in the Chinese city of Wuhan, and it has become a global pandemic and is the third zoonotic human virus of the century. And as the number of cases are increasing, there is an urgent need for us to really understand the dynamics of this pandemic, to enhance us, make adequate preparations, set up strategies to cope and to flatten the curves. Several efforts have been made by numerous contributors by giving us a model for visualizing the geographical spread of the disease. But we are not really interested in that. We are really interested in looking for a mathematical representation of the dynamics of the pandemic. So we used, we need to identify the problem. What problem are we actually identifying? What problems are we solving? We want to be able to describe the flow of people from different compartments over time as the disease spreads. We want to be able to measure how effective can the control policies be to ensure that the curves are flattened. We want to be able to determine the turning point and possible vanishing time of the pandemic. We want to be able to know when will this thing stop, when will it peak, and things like that. Our aim, we aim to create a model, a compartmental-based model for analyzing the dynamics of COVID-19 in Nigeria. And what are our objectives? First, we want to understand the dynamics of the disease. We want to measure the effectiveness of the control policies. We want to make predictions on the turning points and possible vanishing time of the disease. Now, the model that we are proposing is a 5-compartmental model. We splitted the group into 5 compartments: susceptible, exposed, infectious, recovered, died, and as indicated from the model compartment. Now, we took into consideration the current 3 control policies currently in place by the government of Nigeria, which includes the mandatory use of nose mask, the personal hygiene, the washing of hands, and the social distancing. So that the overall efficiency, effectiveness of that we combine it as parameter mu. As parameter mu, beta is the infection rate of the disease. And you can see the definitions here. You can see the definitions on the next slide. I need to go to the next slide now. So these are the definitions of the parameters that are used in the model. Lambda T is actually the force of infection. And if you look at mu, mu is the effectiveness of the control policies, the social distancing, the personal hygiene, and the mask usage. Now, equation 1 is a nonlinear coupled differential equation with 5 state variables. This is obviously very difficult to solve analytically. So we resolve to solving it numerically. So we employ the use of numerical approach to solve. And what you have here is the solution of that equation 1, the model. The green line is the initial solution for those that have recovered. The blue lines are the initial solution for those that are infected, and the red line for those that died of the disease. Now, the dotted green lines are the real observations. You will see that the green line appears not to fit in to the green point. Likewise, the blue points and the red points, because these are initial solutions. So we now run an iteration on this to get the optimal parameters that will fit in, that will fit that data, to enable us predict the possible outcomes of some event. If you look at the results on this slide, we have beta, which is the infection rate to be 0.6652986. We have mu, which is the efficiency of the control policies, to be that. The standard deviations are given, standard error are given. We estimated the t statistics, and we estimated the p values. We did a correlation matrix. The asymptotic parameter correlation matrix was also presented. And from this, if you are familiar with this, you can see that this model is actually giving us the anticipated results. Now, how do we interpret all this our solution? What's the meaning to the layman? How would the layman understand this? First, our model describes the dynamics of the disease. The optimal values of the parameters that fit the model are obtained using nonlinear fit algorithm. So let me use the opportunity to tell you that we actually use the nonlinear fit algorithm to look for the best set of parameters that will fit the model to the real data that we have. And we can see that the curves have already peaked and are already fast flattening. We see that the effectiveness of the control measures are central in the quick peaking and fast flattening of the curves. Now we must report that the infection rate was estimated as beta equals to 0.665299. What's the meaning of this to the layman? It means that the infection rate is about 66.52%. That means we have to be very careful. And we can also see that the overall effectiveness of the control policy was measured as 44.24. The meaning of this is that our control policies, we need to improve on them. If we continue like this, our control policies are falling short. They are not even up to 50% to guarantee us some degree of safety. Now, other interpretations of this, I beg your pardon, yes, we also observed that the mortality rate was estimated as F to be 0.000807. This means that out of every 10,000 persons, 8 persons will die of the disease, according to our model. Now, what's the importance of this? How do you now validate your model? We now run, sir? Hello, sir? Hello, sir?
Hallelujah.
Hello? Am I audible?
Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you, sir. So we ran a sensitivity analysis. You will see that from the sensitivity analysis, we have been able to fit our model to the real life data. The green line now is now fitting onto the green point, which are those people that have recovered of the disease. The blue line is fitting onto it for those that are infected, and the red line is now fitting for those that died of the disease. Now, what's the implication of this? What recommendations are we providing?
Dr. Usu.
Sir.
Dr. Usu.
Yes,
please
sir.
Round up now. Your time is up.
Thank you, sir. Just the next few minutes. Already on the summary, the compartmental recovers almost as fast as the data. The death compartment is well fitted. The control policies are not well properly adhered to. And we will recommend, as conclusion, that we enforce the control policies significantly so that it can significantly help delay and possibly prevent a second wave of the pandemic. Thank you for listening, and these are some of the references. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Usu, for that presentation. We sincerely appreciate you. At this point, let's see if there are questions for you.
Okay,
so just hold on. Any question for Dr. Usu? Any question for him? If you have any question for him, just signify by raising up your hand. Doctor, before they are ready, maybe I need to ask you this.
Yes, sir.
Hello? Yeah.
Yes, I'm with you, sir.
Yes, layman, somebody that is not knowledgeable in the mathematics, especially your numerical and the rest.
Yes, sir.
How will you bring this down to him, to his knowledge, so that at the end of it, he will be able to understand or pick one or two things from your presentation?
Okay, sir. Am I permitted to respond per question or respond generally,
yes,
sir?
You can. I can't see any other hand up for now, so you can.
Okay.
You can respond.
So you are granting me the permission to respond immediately, sir.
Go ahead, Doc.
Thank you, sir. Well, we said it from the beginning that this model is to guide us in proper planning. To the layman, we have been able to understand the dynamics of this disease in Nigeria, and we are saying it confidently that our control policies are not well implemented. The efficiency of our hand washing, use of nose masks, and social distancing is just 44.24%. That is below average. We are saying that if we do not improve on this, if we do not enforce this, I'm afraid from the model, there could be a second wave of the disease, and that could be more catastrophic, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Usu. Again, we appreciate you. I can't see any hand up for now, so that means you are permitted to. Okay, there is a hand up now. Anuku Geraldine. Dr. Anuku Geraldine.
Yes, sir.
You can go ahead now. Thereafter, Dr. Anuku will be permitted to ask this question.
Okay.
So, Dr. Anuku, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Usu, for your presentation. My question is, what informed how did you get your data? Which data set did you use to validate the models that you presented? Then, and also I would like to ask a little bit of models that I've read. They said, unlike it's not an the call for the COVID-19 is not necessarily exponential, but it follows the Gompex curve, that it gets to a peak whereby there's a herd immunity in the population and it starts coming down. I wanted to ask Oscar, did you take all of those into consideration? And also the third question I would like to ask, did you take in particular our scenario, our temperate region? Did you take that into consideration, especially in the transmission of the virus? Because we know from various researches, for temperate region, for tropical regions like ours, viruses do not transmit that much. So did you take all of this into cognizance, especially for our scenario as Nigerians, before making the conclusions you arrived at? Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much for the question. I take the first question, the data source. The data that was used for this modeling was gotten from the Wolfram data repository page. Wolfram has a repository of all data for every nation of the world, up to, in fact, a day-to-day data. So the data that was used was actually gotten from Wolfram repository for the analysis. That is one. Two, there is difference between a growth model and a model for estimating the behavior of an epidemic. We are not looking at the growth model. What we are looking at is the overall dynamism of the model of the disease. And if you look at the graph that was presented, we try to estimate how many persons have recovered, how many persons are currently infected, and how many persons have died of the disease. We are not actually looking at the exponential growth. We are not looking at the exponential growth. We are looking at the dynamism, the behavior of the pandemic, and that is what we are looking at. Then the third one that you said, the rate of transmission following our temperate region. Well, we did our apologies, ma. Yeah,
I'm sorry for that.
Hello, ma. Am I audible?
Please, thank you. Go ahead.
You're audible. Go ahead, please.
So we didn't take into consideration the mode of transmission. What we took into consideration was the rate of transmission. From this data, what can we gather? How is this virus being transmitted? Whether we are living in temperatures above 100 or below 0, we didn't take that into consideration. As long as there is a person-to-person contact, there are person-to-person communications, there are person-to-object contact, we are looking at the overall transmission rate of this disease. And that is what we have done. I hope I've responded to your question, ma.
Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate you.
You're welcome, ma.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Lasu. Please, Dr. Nikome, you can go ahead with this question now. Dr. Nikome.
Chairman of the session, thank you very much. Very good speaker. Dr. Lasu, thank you very much. I joined this conversation late, but I was able to meet up your concluding remarks. However, I have had a brief at your abstract, and I think it's a work that warrants further consideration. Very few comments from me, comments or questions, whichever way it goes. I'm particularly concerned. I'm happy for the use of the word epidemiological model. Yes, and I think that with this, we'll be talking about the incidences, the distribution, and also the control. And that will now take me to maybe the last comment to make as a response to the earlier question. If you are talking about distribution and control and incidences, we are actually talking about growth. Because you can't talk about incidences. When you talk about epidemiological models, you can't talk about incidences, distribution of those incidences, and how to control the spread without looking at the growth. That is maybe that is part of what we are talking about. But my first question, which would not be, will be very direct, is that did you consider the reproductive number of COVID-19 in the model, in the formulation of the model? Did you consider the reproductive number? If yes, because the reproductive number in Europe, America, seems to be slightly different from what we are having in our community here. And that is why we can quickly say that Nigeria and some other sub-Saharan African states are enjoying the so-called herd immunity. If you are looking at herd immunity, it takes me to the second question. That did you consider the simple epidemic model that determines the number of people that will be vaccinated in a herd immunity society? And if we do that, are they actually referenced in the model? Because this kind of model will be very effective if we look at, and of course, in answering all of this, that can now take us to look at the type of data set that were used. The Wolfram data is rich, but might not be a true representation of what happens here, because the Wolfram data will contain many data sets as reports from the West, from Europe. And you will agree with me that as at now, even the so-called experts in epidemiological diseases and virus cases cannot explain what is happening to Africa and Nigeria as a case study. So we seem to need models like this that can actually help us to determine where we are. So the data set will actually reference the type of society we are and the cost of the peace we are enjoying in terms of the existence of COVID-19. So those are my two comments, more to take that. One, the reproductive number. Two, if you have considered the SIR, the simple epidemic model, in terms of in a herd community environment. Thank you very much, moderator and the speaker. Thank you.
Yes, sir. If I'm permitted to respond.
I think you should just go for it.
Hello, sir.
Please respond, please. I think you can go
thank
for
you,
it.
Sir. Thank you, sir. The very first question, the reproductive number. No, first, I must bring it to the notice of this audience that this is a work in progress.
Oh, fine.
This is a work in progress. We have several, and this is just one of several models that we have. As we speak, this work did not put into consideration the reproductive number for now. For now, due to a simple reason. The simple reason is we understand that the dynamics of this disease in Nigeria appears to defy logics, appear to defy some phenomena. And we are trying to see how to calculate and ensure that we're actually presenting the true nature of what is happening in this country, Nigeria, to the whole world. That is one. Two, concerning the SIR model, a work has been published. The model predicts the numbers of that, and that work has been published on Wolfram since April 2020. Since April 2020, that work has been published. Then, relating to the data sets that we use, I can tell you that the Wolfram data set are consistent with those obtained from the NCDC website, Nigerian Center for Disease Control. They are actually consistent with in fact, their data is corrected from NCDC website. So the data that was used is in consistency with that of NCDC, and that gives us a solid footing in validating the data, sir. I hope I've been able to respond to your question.
Thank you very much. I think I'm very satisfied with the data sets. I am very satisfied with also the reproductive number. I would just maybe you look further into the other areas are of concern. Of course, it's a work in progress, and I'm sure there are so many other factors will be revealing as the work continues.
Yes, sir.
So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Nikume, and thank you, Dr. Wusu. We sincerely appreciate you. I would like your presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Before we close this session, I want us to take Mr. Asogwa. Mr. Asogwa presented on the modeling of the COVID-19 outbreak and the welfare of Nigerian citizens using network model. He had presented, but he had issues with his network. So I don't know if you have questions for him, and that we are going to do in the next 2 or 3 minutes. So Mr. Asogwa, please kindly unmute yourself and share your screen.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sorry for the network.
We are still having problem hearing you. It's still not clear. Mr. Asogwa. Hello, can you hear me? Mr. Asogwa. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Okay, please go ahead. Just in 30 seconds, just the conclusion, then thereafter we'll take questions. 30 seconds to round up, to recap, then questions for just 2 minutes. So go ahead, please. I'm sorry, Mr. Asogwa, we can't take you. The network is really bad. Mr. Asogwa, sorry, we can't take you because the network is really bad. We find it extremely difficult to hear what you are saying. At this point, let me appreciate all the presenters. I sincerely appreciate you all for your presentation. Without doubt, It has added to our knowledge uh, of what we knew before now. Thank you very much. I also want to appreciate all the participants that joined us in this session. This session is ending by 11, and it's exactly 11 o'clock now. So want to appreciate you all. Then we still want to encourage so we want you to join the next session that will be starting immediately. When is the next session? The next session, Dr. Adegola, when is the next session?
Dr.
11:40.
Adebola, when is the next session, please?
Okay, there's going to be workshop now. In 10 minutes time, there will be workshop. Thereafter, the next session will start by 11:40. I want to encourage all of us to still join. Again, thank you very much, and God bless you all.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
Session.
Well, it's still good morning from the Lagos State University, Faculty of Science, at the Faculty of Science International Conference. It's day 3, the last day. It's been a very eventful conference. I want to thank participants across the world who have come, presented papers, and now exactly 11 minutes past 11 o'clock here in Nigeria, we proceed to the workshop. This workshop is co-chaired by myself and that great scholar from the University of Waterloo, Professor Pratip Nayak. I can see he's in-house.
I'm here.
So that we can
Professor
start.
Akintula, I'm here.
Okay, please take over.
Can you hear me properly?
Clear and loud.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Once again, so I know this is the last day, and this has been a wonderful, international conference being organized by LSU under the leadership of Professor Akintula as the chair. What we are going to do today at this workshop, we have 30 minutes, I believe. We will use first few minutes to say a few things about the topic, and then we will open it up for discussion and questions and answers session. So the title of the workshop is multiple challenges of small scale fisheries and opportunities, and where we will talk about different kinds of vulnerabilities that exist in the fisheries sector, especially in the small scale fisheries sector. And then we will also talk about what are some of the opportunities that exist. So this is the format that we have decided. I have invited 5 graduate students that are working, in a project that both Professor Akintula and myself are involved. So the project is called Vulnerability to Viability Global Partnership. And 5 students that I will just quickly introduce are as follows. First is Valeria Mendoza de la Luz, Aishwarya Patnaik, Navya Nair, Joyce Seki, and Rosina Amoha Agep. And so I will talk 1 or 2 minutes, and then we will hear very briefly from our 5 students, and then we will open it up. So the topic, which is multiple challenges and opportunities in small scale fisheries with regards to vulnerability and viability, is very pertinent. When we look around and try to understand small scale fisheries, and small scale fisheries is a large sector within the fisheries sector itself. As I might have said yesterday in my talk, 90% of the total fishes in the world can be seen as small scale fishes, and together they contribute more than 50% of the world's fisheries. And it is actually more than 50% if we count the total fish that goes for human consumption. So it is a very significant sector. It contributes to food security, contributes to national, to regional, to local economies. It has a role in poverty alleviation, and it has a role on the overall human development that is taking place around the world. But at the same time, despite all of these contributions, this particular sector that hosts more than 90% of the fishes, capture fishes in the world, suffers from multiple vulnerabilities. And vulnerabilities can be defined by many, many ways. but vulnerabilities can be seen as being exposed to harm, being exposed to danger, being exposed to, being marginalized. And this particular sector suffers from vulnerabilities. But at the same time, as researchers, we have seen that this particular sector, which runs through small-scale fishers and fishers, continues over a period of time. So they are vulnerable, but at the same time, they're able to respond to these vulnerabilities, in multiple ways, and continue to struggle, continue to find ways to exist. So some of the work that we are doing as part of Vulnerability to Viability Global Partnership, we are trying to look at what has made these fishers continue despite their vulnerability. So yes, there are vulnerabilities, but there are strengths, and those strengths are crucial if we want to achieve sustainability in the small-scale fisheries sector. So part of the endeavor in the project is to understand this entire process of how can small-scale fishing communities move from one V to the other V. That is, how can they move from vulnerability to viability? And with that question in mind, I would quickly invite our 5 contributors and 5 graduate students in the same order. Starts with Valeria, goes to Rosina, then Joyce, then Aishwarya and Navya, to take 1 or 2 minutes maximum to say one of the biggest vulnerabilities that they have seen in their research context, and one of the biggest opportunities that exist to deal with this particular vulnerability. And then we will open this up for question and answer. And at the end, I would request Professor Akintula to make some reflections to conclude the session. Okay, we'll start with Valeria to take 2 minutes to talk about one big vulnerability and one big opportunity that she's seeing in her research in Mexico. Thank you.
Hi everyone. Good morning. I think from the perspective of my research in Mexico, for what I have seen until now, I think the biggest challenge or vulnerability driver is how to find a balance between all the activities that take place in one specific area, like how to keep a healthy and unequal benefits between these activities. And for example, as I mentioned in my presentation, the previous presentation, salt extraction is one activity that takes place in Rio Lagartos. So this activity has been there from many years ago. The Mayan culture ancestors used to produce salt by a natural process of evaporation. But it was until 1946 that a company was established and they constructed the lakes that today exist. So some people now are wondering if this company should continue operations. The reality is that this company is a very strong business and many families depend from it. And the pink flamingos that are in these lakes are actually one of the main attractions, like the tourist attractions in this area. So how to make a decision between all these sectors, right? And I think it's a challenge to make, to try to find or trying to make priorities, like which thing is more important and which can benefit more the people. And the option for viability is that once finding synergy between these activities, all of them with good management plans and with common goals, then at the end, they all can generate positive outcomes for the community as a whole. So that's my perspective now.
Thank you, Valeria. And then we request Rosina to take 2 minutes to reflect.
Hi, everyone. Good morning once again. So
for some reason we couldn't go to the field, but then with the information that I gathered in my research area, which is Lake Volta in Ghana, was the fact that one of the major problems that arises from there is the fact that the existing national policies, they don't really address these vulnerabilities that arise from the Lake Volta. So they leave them just like that. But then because of that issue, it brings about this conflict among the local people, especially for the fact that Lake Volta is not for just one tribe, but different tribes all over Ghana come there because it is the primary source of inland fishery. So they all come there in search for food security. So that was one of the major problems that I encountered with my research. So on my opinion, I think that when the national, the regional, and all the local levels, as well as the communities themselves, they all come together to be able to help involve the community, the actors, and implement all these policies by improving their technical and institutional capacity through research and training. It will be able to help them become viable. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosina. And then we move on to Joyce.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Good morning. So my study was basically trying to understand how fishers deal with issues of environmental change and international policies such as oil and gas extraction in Ghana, because Ghana started oil exploration in 2010, and there's been series of issues arising from fishers on the impact of these oil exploration on the fishers. And so one major vulnerability that came out during my study was the impact of the activities on total fish catch. And so fishers complain of declining catch as a result of activities of oil and gas companies such as seismic surveys, and then the restriction of the fishers to certain parts of the sea because of safety zone implementation. And so one important opportunity that needs to be taken is the need for collaboration between appropriate stakeholders. And so government should come together with oil and gas companies and other fishing organizations. For Ghana, there is the Ghana National Canoe Council, which helps to mobilize fishers. And so these bodies should come together in drafting appropriate social investment projects and trying to reduce and mitigate the impact of oil and gas on incomes and livelihoods of these fishers. And so this is one very important aspect, because before I came, I was working with some companies, and then there is always an issue of inappropriate project, fishers complaining that projects that were drafted didn't really meet their needs. And so collaboration is really important. Thank you.
Thank you, Joyce. I invite Shreya Patnaik now to take 2 minutes to reflect.
Hi there. So my research is basically in Sundarbans. Sundarbans is a mangrove forest which is shared between two countries, that is India and Bangladesh. So which harbors around 40,000 households of small-scale fishermen. So while doing my literature review and going through case studies, I found out that the major vulnerability there is the occurrences of tropical storms, which we call cyclones. So there are around 3 to 5 average in number, 3 to 5 cyclones that pass through this mangrove forest every year, and they get a rainfall of about like 1,500 to 1,800 mm of precipitation in that area, which causes flooding, which causes salinization of the local water supply, the drinking water supply, the groundwater is like salinized, and also it causes health issues. All the impacts of cyclones are much of a burden
or it creates a vulnerability for these small-scale fishermen that are dependent on this mangrove ecosystem for their livelihood. So the major vulnerability that is seen because of these cyclones is the loss of livelihoods and the loss of income. So basically, most of their gear, the boats, the nets, they're all destroyed as a result of the recurrent storms. And because of these storms, they do not have the time to build up that resilience to fight back and build up their whole community. So one of the major opportunities, one of the biggest opportunities that I noticed was the active involvement of non-governmental organizations as well as the organizations within the small-scale fisheries communities as well, where they all work together to conserve the Sundarbans mangrove forest by afforestation techniques like planting more mangroves as like a bounce back to fight against the drivers of change or the environmental change that is happening. So that's what I found out from the literature review and case study in my thesis work. So thank you.
Thank you. Now we move on to Navya Nair.
As I have mentioned in my presentation yesterday, so my study location is Chilika, and it's Asia's largest brackish water lagoon. So there were several hydrological effects in the lagoon, such as the runoff from depleted catchment or silt-borne freshwater discharges, which affects the lagoon water exchange, causing many consequences. And as a part of it, the government had implemented opening of artificial seamouth and then introduction of aquaculture, which act as one of the two major drivers behind the social ecological changes over there in Chilika. So I basically look assess the water quality issues in small scale fisheries. So the water quality changes results in social ecological changes, which ultimately affects the livelihood of communities dependent on these resources. So fishing sectors are affected by biodiversity loss as a part of the water pollution and then resulting into food security. And relating to the water quality parameters, it happens due to the low light penetration or hindrance in photosynthesis or heavy sedimentation, which consequently results in less oxygen levels, creating hypoxia, eutrophication, and algal bloom. So the major driver or a vulnerability that I have found in my research is water quality acting as a driver, and then as an opportunity, what I have found is regular testing of the water quality in the lagoon to check how it is affecting or impacting the small scale fishery livelihood, or else for promoting a sustaining coastal fish production around these places. It also depends on good land management practices. So these are the two sections that I have found as an opportunity to remediate this kind of vulnerability along with the adaptation and coping strategies. Yeah, thank you, Professor.
Thank you for your reflections. I know we don't have a lot of time. I want to give the chance to all the audience to ask some questions because this is a workshop before we go to Professor Akintola to make reflections. So what we are hearing is that there are multiple challenges that exist in each of these areas, and that is same all over the globe. But at the same time, what is very encouraging is that despite these challenges that is resulting in vulnerability, there is always a way to work on, to respond to this vulnerability. So we are hearing that there is policy measures that can be taken, collaborations that can be done in, in multi-sectoral collaborations. We are hearing that there could be, other kind of management practices that can be done as in the case of water quality in Chilika. How do you deal with various anthropogenic and also natural drivers such as the cyclones in Sundarban that Aishwarya talked about. All of these things puts us into a really nice a scenario where we think not only in terms of the vulnerabilities of the sector that we are working, but also as creative researchers, as students and as researchers. we need to think about innovative ways to work on those challenges, and respond to those challenges, respond to those vulnerabilities, so that to look for opportunities in those circumstances is a way we should never forget about. So I will now open this up for questions. Please jump in and ask questions, or you can write in the chat, and then we'll go to Professor Akintola after your questions. So open for questions now.
Thank you, Prof.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Question. Okay. Thank you very much for the presentations. Actually, I really appreciate this workshop and the knowledge you have been sharing since yesterday. So actually, my question is that for fisheries that are actually data deficient, where the data of the catches are limited. So what are the ways out of trying to measure the vulnerability, and how can we manage the situation to move from vulnerability to viability? That's my first question.
Very interesting question. So how do you manage the transition from vulnerability to viability in a situation where there is a lack of data? Any reflections from our panelists? First, any reflections? How do you deal with lack of data? Because either data exists, or even if data exists, in some cases the data is not real. So there is problem in data. How do you approach that problem of data?
By proper, can I speak? Okay.
Yes,
so
please go ahead, Aisha.
We have different ways. For example, like we were supposed to go to a field to gather the data that is there by talking to the communities, by discussing about what challenges they're facing, or what is their regular lifestyle, and how they deal with things, how fisheries is a major sector and how they are dependent on everything. So if some places have a lack of data, I would suggest to go to that place, participatory observation, we call it. So be there, ask them questions, could be interviews that you have to talk to them. You have to you can create a questionnaire, survey these people about the geography of the area, about the general challenges, the drivers of change, the vulnerabilities that they're facing. You can ask them in different parts of the questions, like what kind of, how much impact it is they are seeing because of, for example, in forest laws, or no catch, or oil and gas, how it is affecting them. In that way, you are actively participating there to collect data for your research.
Yeah. I think the question, yeah, go ahead, please.
Please go ahead.
No,
I wanted to add to.
Okay, just so add and then, yeah.
Okay, so as my colleague said, we were supposed to actually go to the field, collect data, but because of the pandemic, we couldn't go. Then it became one of the biggest challenges in our lives. So thanks to our professor, we had a plan B. What can we do to be able to collect this data? Now, with my research, it has to do with climate change, and we know climate change is something that is inevitable. It goes all around the world, and we have different case studies around. So you're looking at your study area and the things that involves the small-scale fishery communities, and linking it to other case studies around the world. At the end of the day, you'll be able to gather the information that you need. That is what I did. And the second part was the fact that I had some people back home, and I even had some colleagues who lived or worked in my study area, and they were also able to help me with the current situation going out there. So we have different forms of collecting data when it comes to this type of information. That's what I wanted to.
Yeah. And it is actually very important, because without the right kind of data, how do you manage, how do you understand, so data or information becomes then the lifeline of, understanding a particular context, So we say, okay, let's understand vulnerability. How do you understand vulnerability? You understand vulnerabilities through, you know, through the data that exists, and you weave stories around that data. What I would like to emphasize here is to look at data from multiple perspectives. A lot of researchers would like to deal with quantitative data. A lot of us do qualitative data also. Okay, and now through mixed methods and interdisciplinary research approaches, people are able to kind of deal with both quantitative and qualitative data and mix them and balance them in a meaningful way. So there are different ways to deal with data. So one is whether data exists or not. The second question is what kind of data? Because in most part of the world, governments or policymakers are oriented towards quantitative data mostly, okay, or economic data. But then how do you bring in other forms of data, qualitative data, which include stories, narratives, expressions, and other ways of understanding vulnerability and viability into the policy domain? And that's a big challenge. You might like to read a paper by Johannes, Professor Johannes, who worked in the Pacific fisheries, and who talks about dataless management. So there is a paper from 1970s where he wrote about dataless management, and that might be very interesting for you to refer to. Other questions? I know we have a couple of minutes left.
Okay, thank you, Prof. I have one more questions. I don't know if I can still ask.
Yes.
Okay.
We'll just be left with just 5 minutes.
Okay.
So you can take your question, but we'll just make comment very snappy.
Yeah, quick question maybe, yes.
Okay, the second question is actually, I wanted to know the strongest points in moving from vulnerability to viability. Is it governance at the level of the community, or at the governmental, at the political level, at the higher political level, from the government, the organized government system? So which one can actually have the greatest impact?
Okay, can we have one response from our panel? I have something to say, but I'll wait.
Yeah, so mine, I personally think governance at the community level is really important because, like I mentioned earlier, there was a time I was working with some fishermen, and they used to complain that this project didn't really have a positive impact on them. So maybe the oil and gas company would draft a livelihood project that they think would be beneficial to the fishers, and then the fishers might have reservations about that. And so engaging these community members is really important. We always talk about community engagement and participation as a very positive way in policy formulation and implementation. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's great. What we always say is that we live in a complex world and we live in a multi-level world. So the theory of scale and the literature of scale. So when you are looking at issues of sustainability, when you are looking at issues of vulnerability and viability, there is no one particular scale or level at which we should be work. So yes, community level is important, but at the same time, community level has to work with other levels. So unless you have responses from each of these levels, it is not going to be possible. One of our mentors, Dr. Fikrit Burkis, Professor Akintula knows him as well, from University of Manitoba. In one of his work, he says all levels are important, and we need all levels, but community level is the most important level because that's the foundation. So you can go bottom up instead of top down. So focus on all levels. That takes you to the community, the policy, the market, the private, and civil society. You need actions at all levels to be able to make a transition or move from vulnerability to viability. And if you are focusing on at one level only, then we are bound to fail. Okay. I think, in the interest of time, I'll hand it over to Professor Akintola to make some concluding remarks and reflections, and then we'll conclude after that.
Well, thank you, the chair, for this session. And yes, issues of small-scale fisheries continue to attract a lot of attention, like the chairman for the session has mentioned. Is livelihood? Is it for security and many others? So, but the challenges still remain because of some of what we have also alluded to. The fact that small-scale fisheries do not have voice, they are neglected, and that is why the issue of the governance has always been that, okay, it should start from the community level. We must empower them, we must allow them to contribute. And we also understand that the modern governance system is also very important. And that is why you have to come and meet at a point. Because when you now begin to talk about meta governance, that is governance at general global levels, you will see that if states are, if there's no states, then humanity will go back to the animalistic tendencies. So it means at a point we must all meet. We must all meet and begin to see how we learn from each other and understand that the fishers need the policymakers need the fishers, because without the fishers being enabled, becoming viable, then there also be so many complicated issues in the society. Fish, in terms of its importance, means that we cannot, no part of the human community should be left to feel left over. It should be all inclusive at community level, at institutional levels, and then at the global level. So this, I think, is what we should push for. Now, the issues of vulnerability may look contextual, differing from, be it oil in Ghana, issues in Ghana, be it issues of oil pollution and the rest. But what this project is looking at is able to address all of this knowledge from the context, taking it up to the level, and then an approach, a solution can then be fashioned out if we are talking as a global community, instead of pushing the idea that, oh, my problem is oil pollution, my idea is just water pollution. If we are able to look at this lens that allows us to look at micro and the macro level and the details in between, then we should be able to begin to move actually from the vulnerability to the issue of small scale being, like Professor Pratik, not saying it is going to collapse, but we just saying that we need to understand the drivers and then begin to offer solutions at the global level, which start also from the community level. The control room is telling me that the time is up, and I want to thank I want to at least for allowing all the players to come to a discussion forum. We have to start to discuss the problem before finding the solution. And this is one of the things of this video. I want to thank him and all the members of the team. It's been a pleasure. We cannot exhaust all of these problems in 20-25 minutes. Those participants to the conversation will continue. You can have website. You can get the details of participants and let's just continue the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, for the opportunity, and thank you to all our panelists for wonderful reflections. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
There will be a chat as to what room we can then go for the next technical session. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. The next technical session is commencing immediately. So we should please go to our various rooms. We can go back to the website to check our room and where we are expected to present. So once we are invited, we should please endeavor to be there for the presentation. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, I want to welcome everybody to the technical session. And we have some presenters lined up for today. My name is, okay, can you hear me clearly now? My name is Tony. Yes, thank you very much. My name is Tony Enikwome. I have been honored to share this session, and I would just want us to be sure that all the presenters are in. We have the rules for this presentation and has been the way we've been doing it since Monday, since when we started about 3 days ago. Presenters will have 7 minutes. And after that, there will be time for questions and answers. Your questions can be asked by raising up your hand or via the chat icon that is on the platform. We'll be watching out. I'll be working alongside the technical team, and we'll be getting to you to identify you if you wanted to speak. But now I will just read out the names of the presenters and their paper numbers, and we can just take it from there. The first person that I'll be presenting here is paper 41. That's what I have before me. Of course, the title shows that maybe this should have been in the biological session, but it has been marked for also maybe there are contents that will be interesting to us. It's a presentation from Mr. Kakwa Yoride. The title is Lagos Coastal Line Spatio-Temporal Assessment for Coastal Fisheries Management. He's going to be the first presenter for this session. From that, we go to the next presenter, Mr. Atombiyi Babatunde, that will be talking to us on the development of objective university ranking system in developing nations. We'll have the third speaker as Mr. Ahmad Abubakar Masido, who will be talking to us on the role of cryptology in combating cybercrime. We have paper 51 that will be talking to us on Euler Lagrange and Bernoulli systems by Dr. Rilwan Mustafa, which will be the fourth paper. The fifth paper for this session is a talk. And I think this one has been given. Yes, please. I'm looking at what I have before me.
Sorry to interject, sir. I know that there are some here who are supposed to be in other rooms. Please endeavor to join your respective rooms. Secondly, sir, as scheduled, there will be 4 abstracts for this session, plus other ones that could not join us in the morning. And they are abstracts 31, abstract 28, abstract 35, and abstract 137. So yes, if there is any other person that wants to present who has been missed in the morning or in the earlier days, they can actually indicate in the chat room, and then the chairman will call them. Thank you, sir.
Okay, that is fine. Thank you for the information. But the order that I would like to take, following what you have said, is to take the first 4 that have been scheduled for now, and those other ones that miss the sessions will come after them. So that because they have been scheduled for this time, it is just proper we take them. Then those that miss the earlier sessions will come after them. So we'll take the first 4, then we take those that the abstract 31, 28, and 35. So the first 4 will be paper 41, 43, 47, and 51. That is starting from Mr. Kakwa Yorinde, Mr. Atombiyi Babatunde, the talk on cryptology by Mr. Masido, and the talk on the Euler Lagrange equation by Dr. Mustafa. Real one. So after that, we'll now take abstract 31, 28, and 25 in that order. And I've said, if you are not supposed to be in this room, please kindly get to the website, check the room that's appropriate for your session, and you can join for effective conversation. So permit me, ladies and gentlemen, to thank you again for being here, and to gladly and respectfully welcome the first speaker, Mr. Kakwa Yorinde, if he's here. Mr. Kakwa Yorinde, please, you have the floor. We are not sure he's here. Mr. Kakwa Yorinde, I'm not sure he's here. So can I take Mr. Atombiyi Babatunde? Mr. Atombiyi is not also here. He's not also here by any of the names before me. And Mr. Ahmad Masido, are you here, please? Ahmad Abubakar Masido. There's no sign that Mr. Masido is in. Then Dr. Rilwan Mustafa. Dr. Rilwan Mustafa, are you here? Dr. Rilwan Mustafa, are you here? None of them, we don't have any of them here. So we'll go to abstract 31. Who is presenting abstract 31? I quickly just do that by checking the website.
Oh, no, Dr. Honori is here.
Okay, Honori, yes. Dr. Honori presenting for abstract 31, abstract 31 precisely. Please, you have 7 minutes for your presentation, then we'll take questions and answers. You can go for it. You can start now, please. Dr. Honori, you can start now. Dr. Honori, can you still hear us?
I'm hearing you. I want to share my slide.
Okay.
Can you help me to share my slide? Because the thing is showing me.
We have enabled you. You can share your screen now. You have 7 minutes and the counting will start immediately. But please note that there is a background noise from your end. It might distort others from having a clear knowledge of what you are talking about. There's a background noise for your end. Please try to control it. Thank you.
Okay. Hope you can hear me very well.
We can hear you not very well. There's a background noise from your end and it's distorting the comments coming from you. But we'll try to cope. If there's nothing you can do about it, we'll try to cope with you. You have muted yourself. We can't hear you again. If you are talking, we can't hear you. We can't hear anything. It would be good if you can just put on your video so that in case you are struggling to talk and we can't hear you, you can also hear that, right?
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
Okay. Good morning. My name is Honori Eugene. I'm presenting on behalf of the other co-authors. The title of my presentation is Seasonal Variation of the Critical Frequency of the F2 layer and its comparison with IRO 2016 model during two extremes of solar activity period of solar cycle 22. By way of introduction, the F2 layer is one of the most important layer that has to transmit radio signal as shown in figure 1. It shows different range of variation like diurnal, seasonal, solar cycle, latitudinal and longitudinal variation. This variation can be studied using critical frequency of the layer or the electron density of the layer and total electrical content, just to mention but a few. In this study, we will be using the critical frequency to study the layer. The international reference ionosphere IROI model is a global accepted model forecasting empirical ionospheric parameters. And the latest one is the 2016 model. This one comes with two options: the International Radio Consultative Committee option, CCIRO, and the International Union of Radio Science option, UROSI. These two options of the model will be used to compare the experimental data. The aim of the study is to compare the performance of the IROI 2016 model with the measured or experimental data gotten from an ionoson. Some few studies on this work include the work of these authors listed. Two data are used for these studies: the experimental observed data F0 and the IROI 2016 model F0 F2 data from two stations, Ouagadougou and Manila. Ouagadougou is from the African sector, while Manila from the Asian sector. During very high solar activity period, VHSA 1989, and very low solar activity period, 1986, with their sunspot number value given. The methodology used: first, the data were first averaged over a month to get their monthly hourly average. Then the data are not grouped, each year grouped into seasons, into 4 seasons as shown in table 1. The December solstice that comprises of 3 months, November, December, January, March equinox, February, March, and April, June solstice, and September equinox. Then the percentage deviation of the IRO data from the observed value was also evaluated to know the degree of the performance of the model. The seasonal monthly mean of the IRO model was compared with the experimental or observed F0 F2 data. Here are the results. Figure 2 and Figure 3 shows the result for very high solar activity period. If we look at the plot, we'll find out that the black plot represents the observed value, the red represents the UROSI option of the model, and the blue represents the CCIRO option. The error bar that appears on the black plot represents the standard deviation about the mean. Now, if we look at the two options of the model from this very high solar activity period, we find out that for Ouagadougou, the two options of the model were able to fit well with the observed with the observed plot, since the model option fall within the range of the standard deviation. If we also look at the other station, Manila, represented by MAN, we find out that though the two options of the model were able to also predict the trend, the dynamic trend of the observed data, but there are some little patches of either underestimation or overestimation during the afternoon hour and the 9th hour. We can see the IRO model options. They are out of the range of the standard deviation represented by the error bars. Then if we also look at figure 4 and figure 5 for very low solar activity period, we find out that the rate of underestimation was higher during this solar period for Ouagadougou, but that for Manila, the model was able to predict very close to it also, though there are some cases of overestimation during between 14 to 18 hours. That is the 9th time also seen during the month or during the season of March equinox and December solstice. So if we compare during very low solar activity year and high solar activity year, we find out that the model was unable to predict correctly during the very low solar activity period. This was as a result of the fact that the model could not, predict the solar trend, because during this period, there is very low extreme ultraviolet radiation from the sun, which the model could not correctly predict, but it only predicts near values to the actual model, the actual values. Now, figure 6 and figure 7 shows the percentage deviation. That is the part where the model was unable to, predict the actual values correctly. Now, the negative part shows that the model value was higher. That is, the negative percentage shows that the model value was higher than the actual value, while the positive percentage shows that the actual value was higher than the model value. So we can see that most of the sharp points for December solstice occur around 04 hours. For March equinox, almost the same time. And these are the 9th time period that some of all these occur, and the evening time also. So the larger percentage deviations of either overestimation or underestimation we are seeing during the year of a very low solar activity period. So by way of conclusion, the IROI 2016 model from the observation from the two plots shows that both model options show remarkable improvement to these two stations by predicting close to the actual value and sometimes exactly the value. But the discrepancy of underestimation and overestimation of the model is far larger during the very low solar activity year period than the very high solar activity period, which means there still needs to be an update of the model to correctly predict the ionospheric data during the very low solar activity period. Thank you.
Very much, Mr. Dr. Nori. Thank you so very much for that deep presentation. We have been following you. Their hands are up, and I also have a question.
Okay. Ask a question. Yeah.
Dr. Du, please, you can ask your question. You can ask your question, please. Dr. Du's hand is up, and I'm sure he wants to ask a question. That's why the hand is up. You have been unmuted. You can ask your question. Okay, maybe if he's not coming up with a question due to network, Dr. Nori, if you can hear me, I can quickly ask a question. Yes, I can quickly ask you a question. I know that in your table 1, you reference different seasons, and of interest is the December solstice and the March equinox. I know that this classification, when you classify stocks like this, I know they are based on some features, some characteristics that brings the December solids like December, January, February together. Maybe the type of rainfall you have, the type of wind, the type of whatever that, the sunrise, the level of sun, the heat, or whatever. There are some features that brings them together. And you have done a work on IRI 2016. If I want to do the same work, if I want to look at this result, and my interest is on 2019, do I have to perform this same experiment from beginning, or you have a way that we can adapt what you have done for 2016 for 2019? And my question is coming from the fact that some of these generic features, if I do understand what you are saying, like Harmattan starts in December, the weather used to be cold and dry in December, January, February. It is not always true. And I know that last year or year before the last, we do have an experience where the rain did not fall until late outside August, close to December before we start having rain. So it means that this classification might not be. There's a background noise there. There's a background noise there. Please control the background, please. So what I'm saying is that these features might change depending on the experiences that we have at that current time. What would be your response to that in terms of replicating these models?
Okay, thank you very much for that question. In ionospheric physics, we talk about the variation. We are talking about the variability of the ionosphere. And so classifying the data into different seasons, we have four, like as I said, we have 4 different seasons. Like the December solstice, we also call it the winter season. The March equinox, the June solstice, and the September equinox. Like what you said, sometimes there is this variation because we are dealing with extreme ultraviolet radiation from the sun. And due to the activity of the sun, sometimes there will always be an abnormality. For example, if we look at figure 1, we will find out that during December solstice, there are 2 peaks there, but the pre-noon peak is higher than the post-noon peak. And that gives rise to very high values being recorded during December. And that we call also as a December anomaly. Normally, the value is supposed to be high during the June solstice, but we always find out that the values are higher during December solstice than at June solstice. And we call that an anomaly due to the some of the activities of the sun, such as solar storm and some others. Then also again, the IRO 2016 model is a universally accepted model which undergoes continuous, updating. I'm not the one who worked on the model, but a lot of, scientists came together to, put data together to update the previous model, which is a 2012 model. So this model can be used to predict any value for any particular year. Like this 2016 model now, we can use it to predict or validate data for 2020, if there is any data for 2020 for these 2 stations that I've used. I hope I've answered your question, sir.
Thank you so very much. You have answered my question. I'm satisfied, and I just wish you the best in the course of your further research. I can still see the hand of Dr. Idowu, and I'm sure there might be comments from him. Okay, what I will do is I will lower the hand if you want to talk the hand again. Then we'll be sure he won't. If we don't have further comments here, take his leave and I'll be texting. Dr. Onori, thank you for participating. So I'll be calling on the next presenter. Can you take off the slides, please? I'll be calling on the next presenter, and that is in the person of
this thing come with cover. See, by the time I share the screen,
one of Mr. Adelakun
one part of it,
we are actually waiting for.
I got the think of how to bring her down. Now I just can't transmit for under here. Okay, that's this thing. This thing, they up.
Sorry, for that background noise from Dr. Nori, we have just muted him. We'll be calling on Dr. Rilwa Mustafa or Dr. Mr. Salau, whoever. Dr. Mustafa or Salau. If any one of them is here, they are the next to present on abstract 28. Abstract 28 is his transfer analysis discs. Is anybody here presenting for them? Are they here? Raise up your hand for recognition so that we can enable you to present. If none of them is here, we go to abstract 35. Abstract 35. Abstract 35, are you in? Abstract 35. Secretariat, please. Mr. Labanjo, do you have any information from any other presenter? We are exhausting the paper before us.
Abstract 35 is in.
Yes, is the name. Okay, Olanika Adiboye. Okay. Perfect. Please, you can go for your talk, please. You have 7 minutes, then we take questions. Thank you.
Yes.
Share your screen enabled.
Allow me to share my screen.
My chair, sir.
With you. I'm with you.
Yes.
I'm with you. We can share. You can.
There are 4 people.
Yes.
I don't know if you have called them. Mr. Okeke Henry Sunday.
I didn't call them before.
Dr. Mustafa Rizwan Adewale.
Yes, I called Dr. Mustafa. Yes.
Mrs. Abidoye Olanike.
I'm ready, sir.
Who is that?
Yes, I have called them. I think she's the only one here. I think Olaniko Adiboye. Let's take her, then we'll just wait for the others. Of course, those are ready. So, Mrs. Dr. Abidoye, just go for it, please.
Okay, I'm trying to share the screen, sir. Or do you have it?
Yes, we are seeing the screen, but we are seeing your desktop.
Okay.
No, I don't have it, but the secretariat, I'm sure they will help you share, but you have to stop sharing this.
Okay, let me
You have to stop sharing this.
I've stopped.
Okay, fine. I'm sure our very good technical backup will help you share if they do have it. Because of time, if sharing will be a problem, please continue with your talk. We'll be noting your presentation. And if there's a need to go back to your slide, we check your content on the website. Please continue with your talk, please.
Okay, sir. I am Abidoye Olanike Elizabeth. I'm to share paper that says mapping. That says mapping of. Are you hearing me, sir? Are you hearing me?
Yeah, you do. Yes, with little cracks, but I can hear you. I can hear you. You can carry on.
Okay, I'm to share the paper that says mapping of aquarius zones using geographical methods and contaminant flow direction. A case study of a dump site at Cassidy, Okomaiko, Lagos, Badagry Expressway, Lagos State, Nigeria. This project is being supervised by Dr. Adegbola RB. Allow me to present under the following content, the following outline: introduction, aim and objective, literature review, methodology, results and discussion, conclusion, recommendation and reference. My conclusion is about the groundwater and the problem the majority of country, even states in Nigeria are facing today, which has to do with pollution of groundwater because of irregular disposal, or what we can say because of inappropriate disposal of refuse today. And that calls for mapping of that surface so that there will be siting of borehole appropriately. We are looking at the area. I've mentioned the area before, which is situated at 500 meters away from Lasu Badagry Expressway, and that's what we call a dump site that is at Cassidy Okomai Badagry Expressway. The major factor that contributes to the groundwater pollution is the improper disposal of solid waste, as recorded by some people like Josie 2013, Yang et al. 2014. And I will quickly go to aim and objective of the study, which is the aim of the study is to map the aquifer and to establish the groundwater flow direction with a view to averting subsoil contamination emanated from dump sites within the area. The objectives are, I hope you are hearing me, sir. Are you hearing me? Hello, am I
we
on?
Can hear you. Continue,
okay.
We can hear you.
Okay, thank you,
yes,
sir.
Yes, you are. You're loud and clear.
Okay, thank you, sir. My objectives are to use electrical resistive method for investigation of groundwater pollution. The second one is to generate geoelectric sections and two-dimensional electrical resistivity imaging along each canvas. Another one is to characterize the extent of contaminant migration at the surface at the subsurface layer. And the last one is to determine the direction of the contamination as it moves with the groundwater. Some scholars had worked on this area before, like Yang et al. 2014, that presented a hydrogeological investigation into the landfill land chain distribution and subsurface geology. Another one like Adeoti et al. 2015 carried out electrical investigation and chemical analysis at Isheri North area of Ogun State. Then to go to my methodology, 25 vertical electrical sanding that we call VES were acquired using Schlumberger electrode array. Another one is 4 2D electrical resistivity imaging were obtained at 4 different transverses using Werner electrode array. And the last method is manual groundwater. Manual groundwater flow direction was also established. And the results are the first one showing under figure 1 as a typical feed data pseudo session on transverse 2 with 3 VES points. Then the second one is showing the VES, that is the samples of apparent resistivity cores obtained from the study area under the vertical electrical sanding. Then the third one is the manual determination of flow direction, which is the one that was taken from 3 wells, giving us the first well to the third well. And the table there is showing the parameter determination of groundwater flow direction, showing the one for well 1, well 2, well 3, and their elevations recorded as shown under the table 1. The result and discussion. VES result reveal significant variations of electrical resistivity of the substratum, testifying its heterogeneity. The depth of investigation reached was about 40 meter maximum. The second one, the samples of apparent resistivity cores obtained from the interpretation of the 25 VES data are as shown in figure 2, with 4 to 6 geoelectrical layers, varies from topsoil to sand. We have topsoil clay, clay sand, sandy clay, and sand. And we have something like within the second and third layer of most, they are marked to be most conductive, and they have dominance of low resistivity, as shown in figure 1. Then we have a signature of contaminant zone, resistivity ranging from 13 to 5 to 50 ohm meter, and the thickness undulated between 1 to 5 meter. The last result there obtained from the manual working of the aquifer system, that's shown under figure 3 within the study area, shows that overall groundwater flow is dominantly from north to south. The data as tabulated under the table 1 suggests that groundwater will flow from higher elevation to lower elevation in direction of maximum change in elevation. Conclusion: the interpreted results of the electrical resistivity effectively detected the existence of polluted zones from the surface down to about 5 meters and strong tendencies of migrating deeper, and that means the water elevation contour map of study area revealed that groundwater flows from the north towards the southern part of the region. So, and the implication of that is of the result is that, with respect to that vulnerability to the groundwater pollution, is that the southern section of the aquifer is more susceptible to receive transported contaminants from the northern part of the study area. It is therefore advisable to the site municipal boreholes in the northeastern while location of the landfill and solid waste dump sites should be restricted to the southwest section of the study area. The recommendations are: wider electro spread of the study area could be used for further exploratory study. Another one is that drilling of well or borehole can be done in the northeast direction, since the flow direction of the leachate is from north to south as it follows the groundwater flow direction. And the third one is, it is recommended that by recommendation should be embarked upon by the government to protect the region groundwater system from having more contaminant, so that to prevent the contaminants from flowing to the ground from the dump site area like that. Then further studies should as well be carried out, such as groundwater quality index, that's GQI assessment, and the references are as listed as we have it there. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Very much, Mrs. Abidoye, for your presentation. Thank you very much for your presentation. I noted that Dr. Edo raised his hand, but he was unable to make his comments on Dr. Honori's presentation. At any time, Dr. Edo, if you want to make such comments, please, you can still make further comments. Dr. Honori, who is here, he will note it. Maybe at the end of the session, he can also provide further comments if required. Do we have questions for Mrs. Abidoye? Do you have questions for Mrs. Abidoye? I think there are no questions for you, Ms. Abidoye, but I do have a question. Of course, we had you, but we struggled to share your screen, but we didn't get it clearly. I know there was somewhere when the screen was shared, there was somewhere, can you hear me?
I'm hearing you. I'm hearing you,
sir. There was somewhere you mentioned the results. You were telling us about the results, and you mentioned something like pseudo section, I can remember. Pseudo section.
Yes, sir.
I do know that pseudo sections are all about maybe equilibrium or the stability of two comparisons. I want you to just provide further information on why you decided to use pseudo section and why you did not use the equilibrium phrase. Because in some context, it might be trying to tell us the position in terms of the position and the depth in terms of the transverse area as a particular region against the other. So I just want you to quickly just tell us maybe one or two further informations about that. And okay, this is the area, a typical field data pseudo section on transverse surface. So what are you trying to refer to here? Are you talking about the equilibrium state or what?
Okay, this one has to do with layer. We are looking at, this is 2D. We call it two dimension that has to do with it will give us the depth, both vertical and horizontal, of the subsurface area that we are considering, of the ground surface that we are considering. And the layer, the solution is to show us the layers. I mean, the layers underground, showing a lot of is showing us what the sublayers is all about. I mean, what we have under the ground, like where the contaminants are, since we are looking at the pollution and the pollution that is coming from the dump site area. So this studio session is from, we have a software that's DipoWin. We call it DipoWin. So that's some data. We collected some data, and from that data, we input the data into that DipoWin software. Are you hearing me, sir? We inputted the data.
Listening attentively.
Okay, we inputted the data into the DipoWin. I mean, the software that we call DipoWin, and from that DipoWin, it gives us that diagram, the diagram that we call studio session, showing us the layers. It's showing us both the vertical and horizontal layer of the subsurface of the ground that is under study. And what will it do? What it will do is to let us know the extent. Okay, sir. You are welcome, sir.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you very much. And I think there are no questions. Yes, I have noted what to say because the concern also extended to the part of the question I didn't ask you was on the 2D. That pseudo sections will only be converted to 2D, the 2D models. It won't be converted into 3D. But you and I will agree that 3D in the current context will be more revealing. If we are in an environment where there are enough resources for this kind of very beautiful research, you will know that people will be talking about 3D so that you can have a lot of other revelations from what you are doing. But that might be a demerit to pseudo section because it will not convert into more than 2D. But of course, you have explained what you are doing, and of course for the scope. And of course, you are the expert. I don't know that. I just speak it from the areas I feel is of interest. So thank you very much, Mrs. Abidoye and the other co-authors. I will be glad. It's my pleasure. So you can take off your screen. I want to again thank the attendees for being here, for their participation. Please permit me to call on. I have received a chat that abstract number 137 is here. Please, whoever you are, respectfully, please share your screen and come for your presentation. Abstract 137.
Can you see my screen?
I can't see any screen, but it's loading. Let's give it like 2 minutes or 2 seconds. Okay. Okay. Hold on. Was this work not presented yesterday?
It wasn't presented yesterday.
Okay. Okay, please go for it.
Yes, good afternoon, Grace. My name is Olabanjo Olushola, and I'm presenting on behalf of myself, Professor Benjamin Aribisala, and Olufemi Olabanjo on the topic, on the research supports the prediction of staff promotion using mutual information gain enhanced science-based model. Personnel management is a key factor in an organization's human relations, and they need in place and support mechanism for the HR department. And we also know that absence of a decision system can hinder promotion, thereby making it skewed and biased. Of course, one of the main reasons for working is to be promoted. And when you get to the point of promotion and it's not possible, then there is a problem. So we seek to implement a organization in making decision or not. And so this was to address the science scientifically using machine learning. This work is to develop a naive-based model for prediction of staff promotion in an organization. Investigation of to develop an intelligent and the proposed model for it. All this, we obtained data, HR data from Kaggle, which consisted of 101,201 and the label that prediction being promoted and not promoted.
We can't hear you. I think there was a network problem from the presenter. We still expect Dr. Riwan Mustafa to present. We still also expect Mr. Atombiyi to present. We also expect Mr. Kapo to present. and Mr. Macedo. If they are all here, they can just raise up their hands so that we can recognize them. If we don't have any of them here,
I think I lost connection.
Yes, you lost it. You lost it, but you can continue. You can continue. Yeah. You need to share your screen again. Yes.
Sorry about that, sir. Network technology is really playing off. So our objective include investigation of DSS, that's decision support system in HR of organizations, especially in the developed world. And we hope to develop an intelligent machine learning system to enhance staff promotion, to support HR in implementing staff promotion. And we hope to evaluate the proposed model for improvement. So when we obtain the data from Kaggle, it consisted of 101,201 records by 48 instances, and the class of diction is in the rate of 1. Just listed or in qualification, gender, development, training attended, age, class performance, targets met, award, and there are about 40. But those that may interest us. This data was preprocessed using cleaning, normalization, and duplicate removal. And the preprocessed data was into 75 by 25. And immediately we performed a 10-fold cross-validation to avoid overfitting. This is the model. This is the schematic of the model. The HR, we obtained it. They did a mischeck, nominal value replacement, and data normalization. And we did feature selection using mutual information gain. We split the data into training and testing, and we put into the naive-based model. And then it gave us whether the staff is promoted or not. This is the result. When the was just the 48 instances of the, and we discovered that this is the confusion matrix, 13,008 became the true positive and 168 the true negative. The true negative is skewed because of the not promoted category, and that gave us sensitivity of 0.92, specificity of 0.48, and we can see the PPV and the MPV in the at the far right, and the accuracy is 0.91. When we feature selected, we discover that we are having accuracy of 93% with sensitivity of 93 and specificity of 79. This is graphical representation of the results we got when the full features were used and when the reduced features were used. We discovered that there is a slight deflection in the sensitivity, specificity, PPV, MPV, and accuracy when we use full features and at the other time when we use the reduced feature. What did we find out? That certain personal and performance attributes of staff members can decide if they can be promoted or not, such as training score, that is the score they had in their training, age, performance in last promotional examination, state of origin. All these are the greatest predictors in the obtained data set. Feature selection using mutual information gain enhanced the predictive capability of the developed naive-based model. And we also discovered that 93% accuracy is a promising performance in the prediction of staff promotion. So what we are doing in essence is that we are trying to collect the data of staff whom have been promoted or not promoted over a couple of years, and we are using that to build a model such that by the time a new staff comes into the system currently tell the staff if he or she is promotable or not. So what do we find out? With this system, HR can, the performance HR be enhanced with this support system. That is, even if the system is not a total replacement of it actually aids their work in their day-to-day activities, especially when it comes to staff promotion. It is also staff-driven. The significance is also staff-driven because now we have highlighted for a particular organization what are the key indicators of whether you are promotable or not. So staff can work hard to give less attention. It is also policymakers driven. By this, policymakers can be given this enlightenment on what the aid, if indeed they must be promoted. It's include HR and work the organization in question. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Alabanjo. I'm sure you have had a very good and brilliant presentation. There are going to be questions for you, and I'll be expecting participants to raise up their hand to ask their questions. While we just we tell the other presenters to get ready. Those we have called earlier. So do we have questions for Mr. Alabanjo? Of course, as you were presenting, a colleague of mine has asked that I should ask you that the factors the attributes, yes, those are the factors. The attributes that are used in the model, are they pre-selected or they are just a function of a vector model that combines some of the static variables with some conditional variables? So are they pre-selected? That's the first question. And maybe a couple of questions from me, if you can still hear me. Can you still hear me? Can you hear me? Mr. Alabanjo, can you hear me?
Yes, you said if features selected.
Yeah, no, okay, let me just give you the other questions too. And maybe one of the questions from me is that this kind of very good work, we will expect that
Please, can you repeat the first question in summary, sir?
Yes, the first question is that I just said that a colleague has asked me to make clarifications that the features that are used in the model, are they pre-selected? Are they pre-selected feature for example, the new stuff you mentioned, or they are vector-based, such that there's a combination of the static promotional criteria and some other factors that can arise at that time? That's the first question. Number two, the second question is to ask that will it not be of comfort to use a very localized data set, like the employment history? You have a very robust the HR system in Lasu that you could have gathered data from and actually see the performance there. Because some of these variables that we are talking about will be reflective in terms of localizing the implementation of this model, if it's going to be localized. Why do you choose not to use an accessible local data and you choose to use a data on the repository? Maybe the third thing to know is that the MB model seems to be going out of use by many modern researchers. People are now tending towards KNN and all those other algorithms. And why do you still choose the MB model? What is the strength in terms of, as a reference to what you are doing? Those are the comments from me. It would be good if you answer those comments and provide further details. Thank you very much. Mr. Alabanjo, are you there? Did you hear me? Oh, I think there's a network problem. Okay, while we're waiting for him, let me unmute.
Yes,
Okay.
I did hear you, sir. So if I hear clearly, there are 3 questions, sir.
Yes, from my end. Maybe let him ask his question. Fishery students, you are raising up your hand. Please ask your question so that we can take it all at the same time. You can take it all at the same time.
Okay,
I guess you are the same position where the speaker
my
is.
question is that has the model been tested on some other data sets, maybe like local data sets before being confirmed to be a model that can provide the accurate result, except from the one gotten from the Cargo website?
Thank you very much. Your question is well noted, and he will be providing insight to those comments. Do we have any other questions so that we can round up this part of the presentation? Okay, there are no other questions, Mr. Alabanjo. You can go for your comments here. Then we'll take it from there. The network is playing out. While we are expecting him to come back.
Sorry, Dr. Nukome, I'm here, sir.
Oh, you are there. Oh, okay.
Yes. Thank you very much. I think the last question is similar to what you have raised in your third question, sir.
Yes, perfect. Exactly.
All right, thank you, sir. For the first one, are the features pre-selected? That's the first question, sir.
Yes, that's the first question. That's the first question.
Thank you. Thank you. There are features that were pre-selected. The ones that are data that was released. Of course, there are data descriptions that follow this data set that we just used. Some such as trainings, number of trainings that you have gone through in the last 3 years, your last training score, the awards acquired, all of those ones are static. But then we then discover that even beyond that, we can also see the relevance of the features that have been pre-selected by the organization towards staff promotion. So in addition, we added the age, the gender, whether the person is married or not, whether he has been employed elsewhere, whether he has been sacked. All of these were indicators that HR naturally will not pay attention to. But we harnessed all of them together and we performed mutual information gain, which did feature ranking for the data set. That was when we discovered that there are some other, even state of origin, whether you are in the same state, we have the same state of origin with the organization is a very big indicator in the data set. So are they pre-selected? Some of them are pre-selected, but mutual information gain also enhanced our selection. Why didn't we use Lasu? Lasu is not going to release, of course, we know that Lasu is not going to release data easily for staff members, and it's going to take a lot of time. But we know that similar data can be passed into this model that has been developed to actually make prediction of whether a staff is promotable or not. Base model works for this data, which is a real data set obtained from cargo. It also means that we can also tune or bespoke the model to work for Lasu as well. Why did we choose naive-based model? This model is a probabilistic model, which often is selected for multi-class prediction. But we first used KNN, we used SVM, we used some other techniques on this data set, which created big deflection in the output. So when we tried all of these techniques, we discovered that naive-based gave us the best result among all of those ones that we have tested. So if it gives us a very good result, then we began to see, is there any fine-tuning that we could do that could allow us to get a better result elsewhere? We discovered that when we fine-tune naive-based parameters, the hyperparameters, it gave us better result than SVM and than KNN that we first used when we began this study. So naive-based model was picked because it gave us higher relative accuracy. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much for your answers. I would just recommend that this last part that you just mentioned is not reflected in your abstract, and it's very important. You know that it came up as a question, so everybody will ask that question. Of course, those are conversant with the performance of algorithms will ask you why you have chosen to use this. So you have to show that it performed better than not just you just decided to develop it, but it performed better than some of the existing ones in terms of the data set. And you now actually, maybe to help other researchers, you document the demerits of those other models, why they have not been effective. If you note my comment that it's an old model, probably old probabilistic model that is being represented in other forms as the time goes on, as the representation of other models comes up. So you have to reflect that so that it will have to be a total package in your representation. Thank you so very much. And I do know that there are comments here, so please hold on. Okay. Okay. I think it's a private comment that Professor Akitola's attention is needed. Please permit me as the chairman of this session to recognize the presence of Professor Fagbaru. Professor Fagbaru, you are recognized, you are welcome. Professor Segun Adeola, you are welcome. Professor Bola Oyefolu, thank you for coming, you are here, you are welcome. We do recognize and acknowledge your presence, Mr. Patrick Owate. We do recognize you, we recognize all the, Dr. Adebola, we know he's one of the organizers, so no special greetings to you. We thank you very much for the efforts you are making, Dr. Adebola and the Professor Agitola-led team. We want to call on any other speaker that is here or their representative to make their comments. It's getting more interesting. We are learning a whole lot of things, and it's my pleasure to inform you that this session is being streamed live. So everybody in the world is watching what we are doing. And I think it is only very good that if you have a representation here, please come up for your presentation so that you can just have a whole day fulfilled. We still await Dr. Ridwan Mustafa, Mr. Tons Suyi. We still await Mr. Macedo. We still await, okay, we have had, there is a paper on, okay, Dr. Usu has presented. So who is remaining secretariat, please? Mr. Babanjo, any other person in the house that is to present?
Yes, I would have loved that we give from now till 1 p.m., sir, so that can round off officially, sir.
Yeah, what we'll do is that we will not sit down here and just be watching. What we'll do is that we throw the floor open for interaction, scientific interactions, and all of papers that have been discussed. So yes, I think I will just, if there's no other scheduled event for now, before we just keep watch of the presenters before they come in, I think I will just call on one or two of our very senior colleagues to just make comments in the areas of presentation that have been made. But I do mention earlier that Dr. Idowu signified interest to make some comments. Dr. Idowu, are you still here, sir? We unmuted you. We wanted you to talk, but we didn't hear from you. We unmuted you. No, he's no longer in the house. So maybe I call on Professor Fagboro. Professor Fagboro, do you want to make comments on the presentation so far? Professor Adeola, I'll be coming to you.
No comments.
No comment, Prof. Thank you
no
for
comments, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
Your
attendance. Thank you very much, sir. Professor Adeola, sir, any comment from you on the presentation so far? Okay, okay, I think Prof is not here right now. Professor Oyefolu, any comment from you on the presentations we have so far? If you don't mind, I have comments on the presentation on COVID-19 earlier. And I would just want Dr. Usu, if you can just do that in 3 minutes, to just give further insights on the localized. Okay, Dr. Adeola is back. Dr. Adeola, we're calling you to just make your comments, sir, on the presentation we have had so far, because we recognize that you are here. Thank you very much, sir.
Yes, especially in the area of modeling and predictions.
Okay.
And some of us in the biological science model, very interesting. And I want to appreciate your own coordination too. It has been so wonderful. Thank you.
Prof, thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, sir. We're always happy to have you around. We know it's going to be very short, brilliant words from you, Prof, as always. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Dr. Wusu, I was mentioning about the model, and I don't know, maybe there are factors that can help us in localizing this model. You know, the concern now is that we are not, you have explained that, but you know, we still need a lot of very many clarifications on localizing the model. And now I think it is time. The new order is not to do research that helps the West, is to actually replicate research in the West that will help where we are, or develop researches that will help where we are. We now need to be helping ourselves. So are there factors that you can consider that will help you localize this model, that can just put this model to a direct test that's in a way that can be implemented to even tell Lagos State government, this is the model we have. And this is not for COVID alone. We can even deploy it to a level that we can implement it on ailments that we know, such as malaria. We worked at the time of pharmacovigilance data. We worked on pharmacovigilance data in the Department of Computer Science. We got help and very deep insight and information from the Department of Biochemistry about the things we are supposed to do. And after achieving that, if we found out that the Lagos State government is interested in it, but of course it didn't go to anywhere for factors that we all know. But of course, it's on record that the model was found suitable and can help the society. Maybe one day books will be open and the chapters will be revisited. So do you have factors? If you can look at your model, you can actually see the areas that can be fine-tuned to see the localization factors. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for a revisitation of my work. Do you permit me to share this slide?
I'm more than happy to have you share your slide, sir. I'm more than happy.
Thank you very much. Just let me quickly do that. Share our document. I think we have that now. We have the slide now on the screen. I want to believe so. Am I audible?
You are very loud and you are very clear. You are very loud and very clear.
Thank you very much, sir, for the opportunity given to re-explain this, sir. This work actually, as I've said earlier, is a work in progress, and similar work has been done in this direction to localize this work. And that was published in the midst of the madness of the pandemic around April 2020. Now, what we did in that model, hope I'm audible.
Go for it. If you can't hear you, I will be the first to let you know.
Thank you, sir. So what we did earlier, myself and a colleague, we actually looked at the model in another dimension. We tried predicting, given a given population and the time, what number, what percent or what fraction of the population will be exposed, infected, recovered, and died of the disease. And that work was directed in line, the data used was specifically for Nigeria. We got the data from NCDC. We synchronized them with data across several scientific bodies and correlated them, some of them from Wolfram repository database, and we were able to predict some fascinating behavior of the dynamics of the pandemic. For example, we were able to predict when the pandemic will peak and when the curves will begin to flatten, and that is playing out as predicted. So what we looked at here in the first publication, we only considered the effect of social
Maybe I should let you know, Dr. So maybe I should let you know that just a small brief so that you are not representing everything, but your slides are not displaying. We only have the first slide on here.
Oh, apologies, sir.
Because I'm interested in that prediction. That is why I actually drew you back.
Yeah, let me take you to the model, sir.
Yeah, the model, then the prediction.
Yes, sir. If you look at the model, sir, you will see the parameter mu. The parameter mu in the first equation. That is the measurement of the effectiveness of the 3 control policies currently in place in Nigeria. And what are the 3 control policies? Hand washing, use of nose mask, and social distancing. Now, how do we calculate, how do you measure this numerically? So from the data that we have, we were able to estimate this and then fit this to get the optimal value. That beta there you are seeing in equation 1 is actually the rate of transmission, and equation 1 itself is actually the flow, the dynamics of the pandemic. Now, if you look at this model and the parameter definitions, the force of infection is given as lambda t. Of course, it depends on time, and it's a function of those that are infected, the population, and those that died of the disease. Now, if you look at the numerical simulation that we have, it's unfortunate that I'm presenting this work on a PDF. I would have loved to demonstrate this live so that you see the effect of a change in any one of these parameters to the left. what we did was to first get an initial value, because we know that whatever estimate we are getting are just initial values, and the data can be used to get the exact values or almost approximate values for those parameters that are of interest to us. If you look to your right, to your left, the value of beta was initially stated as 0.888. But after fitting it using a nonlinear fit algorithm, we were able to get beta to be 0.6652986. That's a reduction. And if you look at the value of mu in this case, we got 0.442403.
Dr. Usu, we don't want you to represent. We just asked you.
I'm not representing, so I'm just trying to explain some.
The points are clear. I think the emphasis is just on, maybe the last line is just to know whether those predictions were actually right. Because
yeah,
the Nigerian stories, betrayed all predictions. We had that in December, nobody will be able to come out. So
the predictions are actually, if you look at this graph, sir, you will see that the model almost fits the data. If you look at it, the disease cases are perfectly fitted. The recovered cases are almost exactly fitted.
Okay, but there are no timestamps to it. There are no timestamps to it.
There are timestamps. There are timestamps at the day. The horizontal measurement is in days. The data we used was from January 22, 2020 to December 1st, 2020. So we used the time up to last 2 days. And in conclusion, what we're able to predict is that the recovered compartment, they recover almost as fast as the data. The death compartment is well fitted. The control policies are not properly adhered to. That's the significance of our work. Our work showed that to avoid a second wave, we must have to strictly enforce the use of the control policies, because the measurement that we got from our models is just 44.24%.
This thing is not working.
So 44.24%. So what we are recommending is the Nigerian government should try and increase the enforcement of the control policies.
And the camera we have to use.
The Nigerian government should increase the enforcement of the control policy by asking people to continually keep personal hygiene, to continually make use of their mask, and to ensure they respect and observe the social distancing policy. If we take that into consideration, obviously, we will avoid the second wave or possibly delay it.
Thank you very, very much, sir. Thank you very much, sir. You have answered. Even there was a question from that is the model for localized purpose or can it be effective global? I think you have answered that, and it's explicit that it can be adopted anywhere. And I think it is a good work. Thank you very much, Dr. Osu, for that. And I want to thank every one of us, all the speakers. Yes, take the slides off. We are closing this session.
Thank you, sir.
I want to, on behalf of the chairman of the organizing committee, through the Dean of Science, on behalf of everybody, the speakers, the technical crew, the secretariats, I want to appreciate every one of us that have taken time to be here. And I want to thank our professors that took time to stand with us from the beginning of this session to the end of this session. And all the participants, it is wonderful to still have 15 participants at the end of this session. Thank you for coming. We appreciate you, and we do know that you'll be responding to these kind of knowledge sharing events in the future. My name is New Woman. Thank you very much for coming. Events are to come as we try to close the office. Thank you very much.
Let's see the from